It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we're concluding our coverage of the draft prospects for the upcoming 2025 NFL draft being held in Green Bay this April. In this last episode, we'll discuss the prospects at quarterback. This group will not be mistaken for the class of 1983. However, there are some day one prospects and other hopeful starters down the road that quarterback needy teams will certainly consider on day 2 and 3. We'll rank the prospects next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Drzynski-Drew. He's Coach Andy Shield, and we're talking about the NFL draft prospects for 2025. And, Coach, this is our last episode, and we're talking quarterbacks. And this will close Season 7 for us, because Season 8 will be next week when we do our first-round mock draft. But, Coach, quarterback position, always a big deal. We've had a couple classes in the last 5 years that were, quite frankly, the 2022 class was one of the, I would say, devoid of first round talent that we've seen, and it's proven true. This class isn't that, but like I said, it's not the 83 draft class. But what's your overall thoughts on this draft class before we kind of jump into it?
There's starters in this draft. There's guys that are going to be, there's some players, and I think the couple that we talk at the top are going to get opportunities to start and probably start relatively quickly in their careers. I think there's some other players that will probably earn NFL starts at some point in time in their career. It is not, tremendously deep. We're not looking at like a Mahomes draft or something like that, where or a Lamar Jackson draft, where we have different guys that are bona fide starters. This is one that has a couple of players towards the top of what looks like to be the two top quarterbacks drafted, or two of the 3-4 quarterbacks drafted. But you know what? I think there's 5 or 6 guys that are going to be in the NFL next year on active rosters, and a lot of people that we're going to be talking about are you're going to hear more about them playing football, whether it is mulling through the NFL. In getting on practice squads and working themselves through the league that way, or if they go down to the UFL and test their wares there a little bit. This is definitely a quarterback class that has talent in it that's going to play some pro football.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. But and then I think the problem is even though there's some really good prospects at the top, and we're going to talk about them next year shortly, I don't think anyone's a slam dunk.
No.
And that's where like buyer beware a little bit. But there's some quarterback needy teams at the top of this draft, especially now. Like for instance, we just heard about Derek Carr's shoulder with New Orleans. Ooh, that changes things a little bit potentially. And we haven't heard yet if he's going to miss the whole season or not, but he's certainly going to miss some time. And they were already talking about trying to find the heir apparent. This might expedite that process a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think hearing that injury and the status of that injury certainly could expedite a third first-round draft at quarterback, or at least ignite that pick to be taken right there, because there certainly is one. Do they like that individual, whomever it might be? Are they going to be more inclined to try to trade up to get into, what it looks like the Ward or Sanders sweepstakes, or Dart sweepstakes, whatever the case may be? Who's somebody going to settle in on a guy like a Jalen Milroe and look at this diamond in the rough, and before you know it, you've got a newer and more improved version of a guy like Mike Vick or Lamar Jackson. So, and there's some other individuals too that we're going to be talking about and highlighting, and even some that we're just going to mention that could be those guys as well. So definitely we're going to see some quarterbacks off the board. You're going to see some quarterbacks, maybe see some kids wearing these jerseys next year for some of these prospective teams.
Well, let's talk about that top 20, Coach. And as always, from the bottom right, we start. Why don't you run them down for us?
We got Garrett Green from West Virginia at 20. He is our 20th quarterback this year on the 2025 SPP Big Board for quarterbacks. At 19 is Will Rogers from Washington. 18, DJ Uiagalelei from Florida State via he's played for Oregon State, via Clemson. He's played for a few schools.
Yeah.
He is our 18th quarterback. At 17th is Seth Hennigan from Memphis. At 16, KJ Jefferson out of UCF via Arkansas. And at 15, Donovan Smith from Houston. That's a good-looking quarterback. We're not going to feature him, but that's a guy that you're going to see in a camp. Graham Mertz at 14 out of Florida and he came from Wisconsin prior to that. Max Brosmer, and at 13 from the Row the Boat Gophers at Minnesota. At 12 is Brady Cook out of Missouri, and at 11 is Curtis Rourke, Indiana Hoosiers. He's a good-looking, big-bodied quarterback. That's a guy that's going to get a camp. Into our top 10, we have featured our dark horses right off the get. Every one of these guys is getting featured. In at 10 is Tyler Shaw out of Louisville. He's played for a few schools. He's going to be one of our dark horses. You're going to be hearing more about him here shortly. And at 9, our other dark horse, Mr. Drew's dark horse out of Syracuse via Ohio State, Kyle McCord. And at 8, into the feature group, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame via Duke. And at 7, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon via Oklahoma and UCF. And at number 6 is Quinn Ewers from Texas via Ohio State. At 5 is Will Howard from Ohio State via K-State. At 4 is Jackson Dart from Ole Miss via USC. And at 3 is Jalen Milroe. And you know what, Drew? Jalen Milroe has been at Alabama the whole time.
I love it. Applause for Jalen Milroe. Good.
At number 2, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado via Jackson State. He followed his dad. He gets a pass.
Yeah.
And at number 1, from the U via Washington State and Incarnate Word, Mr. Cam Ward. He is our number 1 quarterback on the SPP big board.
Yeah, Cam Ward is a nice player. Coach, let's talk about him in depth. Go ahead.
6'2", 219-pound senior Drew. He comes from Texas. He's from West Columbia, Texas. And as mentioned, he is transferred from Washington State and the University of Incarnate Word. So he was a FCS prospect. 2024 O'Brien Award winner and 2024 Manning Award winner. So he is one of the college most decorated quarterbacks for this year. He's a 2024 All-American and was the 2024 ACC Player of the Year. So this is a heck of a year for a guy that has played college football for quite some time. 65% career completion percentage, 158 career touchdown passes, 20 more touchdowns on the ground, career QBR of 148.8, has thrown for over 18,000 yards in his career at those 3 schools. Cam Ward has played a lot of football, and he has put up a lot of numbers. And this is a guy that can really dial it up, get the ball downfield, and do things with his feet, Drew.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about Cam Ward, Coach, and I'm going to talk about that right now. And then, quite frankly, it's easy to point out what he does well because it's all on the tape. He's a rally warrior. He embraces the big moment. So when the chips are down, you want the ball in his hands when the clock's in a 2-minute drill. Cam Ward's the guy. He's shown it time and time again. He's an excellent improvisational guy and playmaker in the moment. He's a leader and a good communicator within the huddle and the offense. Critical. I mean, you can have a lot of talent, but then you look at a guy like for instance, like a Jeff George, who had his issues. Great talent, huge arm. Cam Ward, he's a leader. He rallies the troops. He does that well. Tremendous accuracy, as you illustrated earlier, Coach. 65% career completion percentage. That's very good. He has a whip of an arm and really plenty of pop and power in his arm. He can place the ball and he's got power. He's made great yearly progress in his decision process, and that's important. He's showing that he's able to recognize offenses even better. He's making better decisions, and he's gotten better progressively. That's so important to see improvement every year. Cam Ward's showing that. He can make big plays as a runner. You talked about, too, Coach, 20 rushing touchdowns on top of his 150-plus passing touchdowns. Cam Ward is a very, very good quarterback. He's got a lot going for him, Coach. What does he need to work on, or what are some red flags?
Well, he runs hot. He can run hot and not in a way in which maybe the body language gets out of control or anything like that, loses cool, but he can start to play a little bit of what you'd call hero ball a little bit. He'll start to run wild. He'll break down and get into the open field and start doing things, cough the football up. Errant passes, things of this nature. He's got a very, very low interception ratio, which is great. But nonetheless, he's got a little bit of a fumble history as a runner. And he also can throw the ball away at times, not very well. Mm-hmm. Two-time transfer. I'm not going to pick on Cam Ward for this because this could go all the way around, and this is a different day and age of college sports. We're at the kind of at the advent of it, really. I mean, even though it's been going like this for a few years, and two-time transfers aren't really that much of a rarity or anything like that anymore. But, once again, he's transferred a couple different times. He went to Incarnate Word. Okay, that's a smaller program. He goes up into the Pac-12. Now, we're going to look at his paths, and we should probably look at it with a little bit of a thinking process, too, because he went from FCS to, Power 5 at Washington State. Let's take a look what happened to the Pac-12. And we saw that deterioration. There are two hanger-ons. There are two hanger-ons that wanted to be the Pac-2 or whatever, and they wound up really playing a Mountain West schedule. And those schools were Oregon State and Washington State. He wanted to transfer some more for some more. He's about this is a football decision, and I certainly hope he got his education, but I'm not going to make this a commentary about that. So do you, mm-hmm. But he needed to do what he needed to do to have the competitive level be at a spot that was going to prepare him to be in the NFL. Going to the University of Miami did that for him. So I'm not going to be so critical about that, but, he's bounced around a little bit, Drew. And is he going to be someone that's always looking down the road? And if that's the case, is he always just going to be faithful to the options? Is he ever going to really dig in? That's something that we'd want to be making sure of when we're evaluating Cam Ward. Not the best deep ball in this draft. He does not possess that. He's going to possess the ball and be more intermediate and short with it, be an RPO guy, be a progress guy, a process player, and be a schedule player. That's the kind of football player Cam Ward is. He's not going to make a lot of explosive plays with his arm on a regular basis. Defense and play call recognition is raw. He's bounced around. I mean, he's moved around. He's never really learned the system, I think, well enough to where that would be a strength of his. So that's something that he's still very much working on. Relies very heavily on that athletic ability, and he can really put it in his back pocket and go at times. And you know what? Hey, that may work. That may work at times, but at times it's going to cost him too, because this is a very, very talented league, as we know, and as everyone knows. We're not going to insult anybody with that. Is he ready to start on day one? Well, I think he's going to get a shot. I think he's going to get that opportunity. But is he going to be ready for that? That's the question that needs to be answered.
Yeah, absolutely. And, not tipping our hat or anything like that, but I mean, a lot of signals point to Cam Ward being the first overall pick of the Tennessee Titans. And it makes sense. They don't feel Will Levis is the guy, and I don't think anybody really does. Not saying they're giving up on him per se, but I don't think that he's the answer necessarily. But you never know; he might step up with the competition. But at the end of the day, it's really hard for a team that needs to upgrade their quarterback position to be in a spot to take a Cam Ward to pass him up. That's a tough spot, and it really is. And I don't see it happening personally. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a slam dunk. He's going to have to earn it. If Tennessee's that team, he will, like to your point, he will get every opportunity to do so. So, we shall see. But what do you think, Coach?
Yeah, I think that's where he's going, and I think that's where his first opportunity is going to be. And and for Cam Ward's sake, I hope it's his last one. And he reminds people of Steve McNair, and there's great success for him there, because that certainly could be what he is. He could be Steve McNair again.
Nothing wrong.
And I don't think anyone would. I don't think there'd be anyone disappointed in that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Great quarterback in Steve McNair. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot to like about Cam Ward. It's going to be exciting to see. He likely will be that number one guy, and be exciting to watch him in camp to see what happens with Cam Ward. Coach, let's talk about the number 2 quarterback on our list, and this is the quarterback that was number 1 on a lot of lists early on in the process. Shedeur Sanders out of the University of Colorado. We know him. We know his dad, Deion. We know he followed him from Jackson State to Colorado, and he played very well there. He's 6'2", 215-pound senior. He's a Dallas, Texas native. Of course, he is the son of Deion. He transferred from Jackson State, as I mentioned. He won the Johnny Unitas Award last in 2024. He was an All-American in 2024 and also the Big 12 Player of the Year. And, oh, by the way, he's also 2023 All-Pac-12. He has a 70.1 career completion percentage. That's outstanding. 134 career touchdown passes, another 17 on the ground, and his QBR for career coach is 156. Shedeur Sanders puts up some statistics. Talk about what you like.
Shedeur Sanders has been a very, very good college football player. There is no debating that. And at the foreground of that, he's an excellent, accurate passer. He's very, very accurate. And he did that at Jackson State and with Colorado, and there was a progression. He's a very mobile, athletic quarterback himself. They're very much out of the mold. Similarly built, very similarly built to Cam Ward, and there's a lot of athletic ability that they kind of share that's very similar. His father is one of the better athletes of really the 20th century. I mean, he played two major league sports at the highest level, competed at the highest level, led the major leagues in triples, was a double-digit time All-Pro and Pro Bowler, one of the all-time leaders in punt return touchdowns. I mean, this is a phenomenal athlete, Deion Sanders, was. He's now become a coach, and he's mentoring young men in the University of Colorado and building that football program. Shedeur Sanders has a lot of his dad's athletic ability, and he has a lot of that pedigree. He was raised. Deion forged a lot of this through himself, through his coaches and, his youth and his upbringing and his family and that kind of thing, and then his coaches at Florida State and throughout the league in both baseball and football. Shedeur's been under the guidance of Deion, since day one. In many ways, Shedeur has lived a very privileged life. If you really think about it, the life as compared to, Revel, the corner that we were talking about that was working midnights at the Amazon warehouse.
Yeah.
That's not what Shedeur Sanders was doing.
Mm.
So, but nonetheless, here he is. He's at that stage. Yeah. Great release. He can throw it. And that's, I can see, he's got, just great fluid athletic ability. He commands, he's a commanding, confident presence in that huddle. He can really lead the dogs, so to speak. Very efficient in the pre-snap phase. Very cool as a cucumber. Even if he's competing and doing his thing, he's a great reader of the defense, and he is processing. He's got great body language and demeanor. He looks like he's in command at all times. He might be deeply under the skin of some other people too while he's doing it, but he has got that moxie to him. Wonder where he may have learned that from. I think that was somebody we were talking about earlier. He's also very secure with the football, more so than Cam Ward. So Drew, I think we Cam Ward's still going number one. I do. Yep. Why is that?
Well, let's talk about that. Shedeur Sanders tends to be a little too reliant on his arm talent and athletic ability. Now, we talked about that with Ward, but we've also talked about that with nearly every top player, because the concern there is, well, why not? They're great athletes. You're right, but in the NFL, you've got to have moxie and technique and take what's given to you sometimes, more so than just thinking you're just gonna let it ride and just sling it out there. You gotta sometimes take what you're given and be a little more patient in the NFL, because there's great athletes on every team, on every side of the football. So gotta watch that. He has shown to be susceptible to the blitz, so that's a little bit of, and I know he's definitely a good reader of defenses, but when you're susceptible to the blitz, that means what kind of decisions are you making when you are being swallowed up, so to speak, in a blitz? What are you doing? So his NFL defense recognition and response could take some time. That's they kind of go hand in hand there. He does drift away from the line of scrimmage a little too much. So, and Coach, explain that a little more in detail.
Well, as a play continues, instead of stepping up into the pocket, he drifts away from it. He drifts away from the line of scrimmage. It just makes everything more difficult. It makes throwing the football way more difficult. It makes completing a pass way more difficult. You're getting further away from the receivers. And honestly, you're giving up ground. I mean, if you're penned in, now you're going to be running for your life, and you're going to be, 10, 15-yard losses. It makes you susceptible to giving up a big play to the defense. And that is a characteristic that Ward breaks down a little more and will become a runner. I think a little bit more where Shedeur wants to beat you with his arm. And it's kind of what Pat Mahomes has become. It's kind of what Aaron Rodgers had become, really, to a certain degree.
True. Very true. And, you got to watch, too, when
those are two very distinct individuals. So,
yes, very much so.
It's a dangerous proposition.
Yeah, definitely. And you also got to, especially if you're running an RPO, ineligible downfield, those linemen, they need to release at some point. They're not, if you're running around back, they're 10, 15 yards deep. Yeah, the tendency to get and have an ineligible lineman downfield is high. So, yeah, he's got to watch that for sure. He's too willing to give up on plays. And I think it ties in well to that drifting away from the line too much. Sometimes you got to step up, make a play, maybe tuck it and run. It depends. And so he's going to have to get better at that. He needs an acclimation period, but will he get one? Now, that's important. Let's talk about, like, for Lions fans, for instance, a Joey Harrington. Joey Harrington could have used an acclimation period. He didn't get one. And then he never had the guys around him necessarily because they were either injured or just weren't there. And I'm not comparing Sanders to Harrington, but I am saying is that just because you were a great college quarterback doesn't mean it's going to immediately translate into the pros. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. One thing I do want to touch on, Coach, is I want to ask you this. Do you think there's been a lot of talk about Shedeur Sanders' attitude and issues with that? There was talk a couple of seasons ago about CJ Stroud's Wonderlic test. Do you think he's getting the CJ Stroud treatment a little bit here, or is there a little fire here where there's smoke in your view?
He's definitely facing a different level of scrutiny. I think greatly in part to who he is. And you know what I mean? Shedeur Sanders has spoken for himself too, and he has said things that could, be of low or high brow, depending on your perspective. But I think he does have a little bit of a different lens, placed in front of him, based off of his father, and having been a starting quarterback, even from Jackson State all the way through Colorado. I mean, Dad is not going to be coaching his NFL franchise. And that is going to have to be something that he is going to have to embrace. And that's a relationship dynamic that he will not have any longer.
Yeah.
And he needs to know that that's going to look and feel different. Will Shedeur Sanders, and how well will Shedeur Sanders embrace that? That will be very telling. I think Shedeur Sanders, if given the opportunity to develop and to grow as an individual, could be a quarterback in this league for a long, long time and be one of the best.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a commercial guy, and he and Ward are two long-term starters. These are the two guys that I think are going to get a long-term opportunity to start. There's a good chance Shedeur Sanders could outlast Cameron Ward, and there's a good chance that Cam Ward outlast Shedeur Sanders. But I think these two individuals are going to be there for the taking very early, and they're going to go to places. Shedeur could be a Steeler, and if that were an opportunity, that could be a great opportunity for him.
Yeah.
And on a lot of levels, and because of just the way they play football there, and are a defensive first team, and they want to run the football. That's going to be very helpful to him in growing if he is going to be that starter day one, if that is where he is to go. But that's kind of how I see it, Drew.
Yeah, the natural, like for me, naturally, I think, okay, what will the Giants take him? Well, they could, and they very well might, but they also have they signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I'm not saying those are the long-term answers though, but those are two bigger name quarterbacks there. So the Giants aren't necessarily desperate for the next quarterback right now. That doesn't mean they won't be next year. It doesn't mean they won't draft Shedeur Sanders and say, you know what, we're going to let you learn from one of the best quarterbacks in the league at one time in Russell Wilson. And you're also going to get Jameis Winston's turned around himself a lot. He really has. I mean, it's impressive actually, because there were some maturity issues there early on, and I think he's starting to turn it around. So he's still a chance there. You've got the Saints at 9 now with the Derek Carr situation. You talked about the Steelers, and I agree with you, and I think they're at 20. But when you go to look at the Saints, that'd be hard to pass up a Shedeur Sanders if Derek Carr is going to be lost for a significant amount of time. So I think no question he's day one. He could be as high as 3 on the board. He could go down to the Steelers, but he's not. I don't see him slipping past the Steelers. No way. But I don't, quite frankly, I'd be surprised if he slipped by the Saints. So lots to like about Sanders, and I agree, Coach. There is a chance he could end up being the better of the two between he and Ward. It's going to be fun to find out. We shall see. Let's talk about our number 3 quarterback prospect, Coach.
We've got Jalen Milroe from Alabama. We're pretty familiar with him. He's been around for the last couple of years as the starter for the Crimson Tide. 6'2", 225-pound junior from Katy, Texas. 4.4 flat, 40. We know Jalen Milroe can roll. He can really run. Both parents served careers in the U.S. military. Dad for the Marines, mom for the United States Navy. So he came from that very structured, very esteemed background with 2 military veteran parents. 2023 All-SEC player, 2-year starter at Alabama, 64% career completion percentage, 45 career touchdown passes, 33 career rushing touchdowns. So he's almost equal that total. We're going to talk about a guy down the road, too, that's a little bit surprising. That's very close like that, too. Drew, he's got a 156.8 career QB rating. So there's always been this kind of label that Jalen Milroe is not a quarterback, that he's a running back or a receiver, or a Cordell Stewart type player. Not so. Jalen Milroe is ready to play some quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. And let's talk about what we like about him. And the first thing is he is the most dangerous quarterback in the draft room. And why we say that? Well, the stats tell us.
Most dangerous running
quarterback in the draft, no question. 33 rushing touchdowns. So his versatility and his ability to break it on the run is just so good. He has Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields type escapability and mobility. You've seen it on tape. We've all watched Alabama games. We've seen Jalen Milroe do his thing. He's definitely the real deal in terms of his mobility. He's got a big arm. Really big arm. He can just sling the ball downfield, and he's got a quick release. He's got a lot of pop on that. He's a really sturdy built football player. He's 6'2", 225. I mean, you saw that picture earlier, man. He's got guns on him, man. He right there. He's got some guns. He can throw. He's not an easy guy to bring down either. He can take some hits. He's not a guy you're going to be like, oh man, don't run. I'm afraid you're going to get hurt. Of course, you don't want your quarterback running loosely in the NFL. They'll all go down and get hurt eventually. But Jalen Milroe is a tough guy. He gets a lot of bites in play action and in his improvisation. So he's deceptive, and teams know he can run at any given time. So they got to respect that. That opens up opportunities in the passing game. He can make massive plays with his legs and his arm. That's critical. He's not just a runner, like you said, Coach. He can play the quarterback position and play it well. He's a good decision maker, and when not time, and he's on top of his processes. When he's on top of his process, that's what's critical. When he's comfortable and he can recognize the defense, he's very, very good, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes back there. Look at his QBR rating. I mean, that tells you what you need to know. But Coach, obviously, Jalen Milroe isn't a typical drop back pocket passer, so there's some issues here. Let's talk about those.
Well, a lot of it is very similar to Lamar Jackson when he came out. A lot of it is. in that he does not have the touch or the local accuracy through the short and intermediate windows to be effective in the NFL. And he does not have that. He does not have the same level that a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders does, or Jackson Dart even. It's not like that yet. He can be very it can be like, you can be like, what are we doing? There can be times where it just stalls out. And that's what he needs to improve upon, or else it'll always be kind of a mismatch type situation with the NFL. He has got to be able to develop that. That's got to be an area of improvement that he needs time to work on. He's got smaller hands, and he's a runner. And small hands that you've got to be able to cradle, and boom, you get those hands that helmets knocked on that, so balls pop. Yeah. And that's his gift, is his ability to run. So he has got to be able to protect that and be a great ball security guy. And at this point, he really proved this to be at Alabama at times too. He's just way too reliant on his running skills. And when he tries not to be, he sits, and what does he do? Then he drifts. We've got those plays. The last two times they played the University of Michigan in the Rose Bowl in January of 2024, and then in the Citrus Bowl on New Year's Eve of 2024. There's a couple of plays where Michigan had him dead to rights for like 15-yard losses, based off of him drifting away and getting pinned in because he's trying to pass the ball. He wants to run, and he bridles himself and doesn't allow him to at times, which causes problems for himself. Doesn't have the polished passing skills that some of the other guys do. That's a part of his, game. That's a very much a work in progress. He's more of a thrower than a passer at this point in time, and just needs a lot of work as a passer. So if you threw him to the Wolves right now, Drew, and you made him a starter, if he was that guy that at New Orleans or whatever the case may be, you're running the real risk of having a Justin Fields 2.0 situation, where it's the kid that's going to be bouncing around, trying to figure things out if he ever is able to do it. I think there's more of a likelihood that of that. He doesn't quite possess the talent that Lamar Jackson does. He's not. He's amazing. Jalen Milroe needs some incubation period, but man, would I love to have him. I would love to have him. And if somehow, I'll just throw it out there. If he was like at the 102, or if we had acquired some other pick between 60 and 102, and we decided to take a run at him because we wanted to have something in our back pocket to do something different with, if things, run its course with Jared. I'm not shaking my head. I'm more interested in Jalen Milroe in many ways than I almost am in Hendon Hooker. Really, just about with what upside he could bring once he learns the game.
Yeah, there's his ceiling's very high. And I think the reason why he will be, like, to your point, a day two guy for sure, is that floor is also real low potentially. But his athleticism and ability are going to keep him in the NFL for a little while. No question about that. And yeah, I'm intrigued too, because I know the Lions did talk to him. He was one of their interviews, right, at the Combine, if I'm not mistaken. So, which was interesting because, I was thinking in my head, there's probably no way the Lions are targeting a quarterback. But to your point, if things shake out and they're able to acquire another pick, and you never know, it could happen. I think Jalen Milroe definitely will be a day two guy. But there's a lot to like about his game. I like his toughness. I like his ability to run. But it's all going to hinge on can he be an effective passer as a quarterback? If he can be an effective, efficient passer as a quarterback, it doesn't have to be spectacular, but just an efficient passer with that running ability, that could translate into something really nice for Jalen Milroe. I wish him success. I like him as a player. I think he's a good guy. So let's see what happens, Coach. Let's go to our number 4 prospect now, Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, the 6'1", 205-pound grad student out of Kaysville, Utah. And he was the 2020-2021 Gatorade High School National Player of the Year. He's a transfer from USC, as Coach mentioned during the intros earlier. He was an All-American in 2024. He's a 2-time All-SEC player at Ole Miss. He has a 65.7% completion ranking for his career, which is very good. 81 career touchdown passes. He has 14 rushing touchdowns too, so he can run a little bit. He has a 158.4 career QBR rating. Coach, there's a lot to like about Jackson Dart. Let's talk about him. What do you like?
Well, coming out of the class of 2021, graduating class, this was the top dog. This was the top player in all of recruiting. So Jackson Dart, has had that kind of billing. He's built exactly like Jalen Milroe. He's also 6'2", 225. He is impressive touching. He's got a lot, but he does have that touch. He can get it into those intermediate and short windows. Unlike Jalen Milroe, who struggles with that. He's an RPO process wizard, and that's what he was at Ole Miss. That's what made him so effective, and that's really a lot of modern offenses are designed that way. He is a process guy, Drew, and in saying so, he is going to be able to get in rhythm, and he's going to look real good out there. Another excellent leader on the field, sideline, and locker room. Good guy. This is a lead dog. This is a do you want to get into the alpha male? Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into his personality type necessarily. I don't, because I don't know what that is. But he is that type of person. He has got those leadership qualities that leads a locker room, it leads the sideline, and it leads the huddle and the play on the field. Very good athlete and a very good athletic thinker. This is a kid that's kind of built for what he is, and that is a high level quarterback. Does well in a fast pace and a rush. He can go hurry, no huddle, 2-minute drill, urgency, frantic, loud, on the road. He's good in that kind of capacity. So that's good. He's not afraid to stay in the pocket and take a hit. He's not going to drift. He's going to stay in there and throw the football. And he does have a good release, and he's got a real good compact throwing motion. So he's going to get rid of the ball a lot too. So you couple that with a guy that's going to stay in the pocket, you got an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. And let's face it. Ole Miss has always been a good program. They really competed very well over the last couple of years, and then no surprise, Jackson Dart's a big part of that. There are some red flags, though. He did struggle against elite defenses. So again, as the competition gets better, Jackson Dart's play regressed a little bit. It's a little tougher for him naturally. But of course, you want to see if you want to be a day one guy, you got to be able to step up in those situations. On tape, Dart struggled a little bit in those situations, so that's a concern. He doesn't have the most potent deep ball in this quarterback class. It's not bad, but it's not the best one either. He does lose accuracy under duress. So yes, he is a very quick thinker, and he's able to move quickly and make quick plays. But if he's under duress and running for his life, the accuracy does suffer a bit, but overall he's pretty solid there. He does have a lot of film showing 3-and-outs and being stifled in big games. So again, it ties into the elite defenses. Playing against tougher defenses tends to struggle. Maybe improvisation isn't quite there like some of the other quarterbacks we've been talking about. So that's a concern. He does get flustered and flushes while getting good protection at times. So that's a concern. He's got to have patience back there. When he's, quite frankly, being blessed with good blocking and time to throw, you got to be able to make the plays in those situations. That's what you want as a quarterback. You need to make decisions. And you got to trust coach, you got to trust your receivers too. You got to throw it to a spot, and you got to trust that guy's going to be there. He's got to do that as well. And he locks in on targets a little bit now. So he's got to learn to look off the safeties, look off the linebackers to make sure he's not dialing in, because NFL defenses will torture him if he locks in on targets. He does not yet have the skill set to be an effective drop back passer. He's an RPO guy. Now, a lot of teams, coach, are going to RPO in the NFL, so that plays into his hand a bit, but it also, in this sense, it does alienate him a bit. But coach, I gotta say this: if I thought there was another quarterback that could crack the day one, get a crack in day one, it might be Jackson Dart over Milroe even. What are your thoughts?
I think you're right. I think it is Jackson Dart, and I think he could be a fit at a place like New Orleans. You're just going to have to cater your offense to him, at least to start. And if you're going to make him a starter, in his rookie campaign, you're going to have to do things a lot his way because that's just the thing. He needs an incubation period to become a drop back guy. So if you're going to get Jackson Dart, I guess you're not going to be a drop back style offense really. Because that is just not his comfort zone at this point in time in his career. He must develop that. And he has the skill set to do it. He will stay in there and take hits. He will step up into the pocket and throw. He's got a great, compact motion, get rid of the ball quick. These are things that can be learned. But if he doesn't get that opportunity, the offense is going to get catered to him, and it's going to be what it's going to be. Honestly, what that really showed was a guy with tremendous skill and a lot of talent. But in the end, you had a lot of those Sam Darnold type performances.
Yeah, so he's definitely interesting. No question, without question, a day 2 guy and likely round 2. But possibly, like we talked about, he could crack day 1. We will see. Coach, let's talk about our number 5 prospect.
Well, back down to Columbus, Ohio. It's the Ohio State University, excuse me. Will Howard, 6'4", 236-pound grad senior. He is our 5th prospect here in the SPP Big Board. He's from Downingtown, Pennsylvania, and he transferred from Kansas State. He was a Wildcat at first, and he was very successful there. He was the lead quarterback of the 2025 national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. He was all Big Ten for Ohio State this past year, and he was 2-time all Big 12 player at K-State. 63.8% career completion percentage, 83 career passing touchdowns, 26 career rushing touchdowns. So another guy that was very prolific as a runner in college as well. 149.2 career QBR rating, so in and around the same as Cam Ward's. Will Howard, Will Howard is a guy that's very accomplished, Drew. This is another guy, and he's 6'4", 236. He's got that big old NFL body. This is a guy that's going to get a shot. He's getting a shot.
Oh, yeah, he's getting a shot. With that size and the mobility to boot, yeah, no question about that. What do we like about him? Well, he has extensive experience taking snaps and operating under center. So he's not a shotgun pistol guy necessarily.
Yeah, he can do it all. Yeah.
He can do it all, exactly. And he's you got to like that versatility. He's got a nice touch on his deep ball. He's got a strong and well-equipped arm. So he's got touch, and he can sling it when he needs to. He gets a lot of bites on his play-action game. That's a beautiful thing. And then you watch the tape. Yeah, Will Howard is very deceptive back there. He's fun to watch. He's got a very good functional athlete in a pretty big body. So, I mean, he's like you said, he can run, and to be 6'4", 236, to this point, he's the biggest quarterback we've been talking about right now. And Will Howard's been very successful. Definitely got to like his frame overall. He's got a good frame for the NFL. And he ate up zone coverage at both K-State and Ohio State. So he's very good at recognizing that and being able to recognize where the bubble is going to be in the zone. He's a great pre-snap QB, so he's a great processor at the line of scrimmage. He's good at reading recognition early on pre-snap, and is able to either audible or understand where he needs to go with the football based on what the alignment is in front of him. He's a skilled and veteran defensive reader. He's just very good at that. He does a lot of things very well, Coach. If we just look at that and look at his body of work, you think, well, how can this guy not be a day 1 guy? But there's some things to be concerned about. Let's talk about him.
Well, he's older. He's going to be 24 years old. And that's kind of what Hendon Hooker has going for him too a little bit. Like it's like almost like, and I don't quite get it. I mean, you are what you are. And if you're not taking a lot of hits and shots originally, if he's 26 years old, he's in his 3rd year in the league, I don't see what the big deal is. And it's not like he's been, it's hard miles or anything like that. But he is a little bit of an older prospect. Mm-hmm. So, that ability could, that shelf life could be just a bit shorter. He did not do well in Indianapolis. He did not do well at the combine. It's one thing to test, poorly if you're running and you're jumping and you're bending and you're lifting and it's not going real well for you that day. If you're sick or whatever, but usually, you can avoid those kinds of things. In his throwing drills, he was not very good. And I don't know if he put some pressure on himself or whatever the case may be, or if he just tightened up. But that's not an indication of a guy. That if he's choking up a little bit in the combine, what's it going to be like fourth quarter game-winning drive, Ford Field on the road, and everyone wants to absolutely just scream your ears out,
Yeah.
Perform in that kind of a environment. What was up with these struggles? He also has struggled with well-disguised blitzes and pressure schemes, which that's an issue for Dart. It's an issue for Sanders too. They struggle with that a little bit, where Ward and Milroe are able to kind of evade that a little bit differently. He's more inconsistent passer than the other prospects. He'll just, he'll go. And I saw it. I saw it in my own eyes versus the Spartans at Spartan Stadium, where first half he wasn't hitting. I mean, he was just missing, and they were getting 3 and outs or stalled drives and coming off the field, and the Spartans would move the ball, and the game was kept close there for a while because it was inconsistent passing. Needs to develop that. He's got to develop into that pro accuracy and consistency. That's got to be something that gets there, because this is a guy that can play. He could be on a football team and eventually get starts somewhere. He definitely has the tools to do so. But he's not an improviser. This is more of a Jared Goff type quarterback. He is going to stand up and pass the football over the middle of the field, and in and around, and get the ball deeper and move the ball vertically that way, and beat you with play action and those kinds of things. He is not going to have a lot of RP. He's not an RPO guy at the NFL level where he can really run around on you too much. That's not what he's going to do. He's not nearly that mobile. He's got to find the right fit to develop. In some ways, if you are going to say, okay, if you wanted to mold and have a quarterback very, very similar to Jared Goff on ice for Jared Goff to pass the baton to, this is the type of a guy you would want to do that with.
Yeah, and to your point, he's not terribly mobile, but he can move when he can run when he needs to, and that illustrated by he has had I think what he had previously what we said 14 rushing touchdowns in his career. So I mean he can get it.
20s, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean he can move, but no, he's not terribly mobile. Being that big, but I like him overall. I'm not sold on whether he'll be a great starting quarterback, but I agree with you. He's going to get – I think he'll be drafted day 2, and I believe he's going to get a good opportunity to learn and develop his craft. And if he's fortunate enough, maybe he goes to a team where he's got a shot to compete early on, and, let's see what happens, whatever. But I think Will Howard I think his floor's higher. I think he's going to be a pretty solid NFL player, whether he's a backup or a starter at some point, but I think he's going to contribute and be solid in that respect. So I think he's a safer pick than some others, and I think and then his pedigree speaks for itself. He's got the statistic to back it up. So excited to see what Will Howard does end up, Coach. Let's talk about our number 6 prospect, and it's Quinn Ewers out of University of Texas, Hook'em Horns, 6'2", 212-pound junior. He's from South Lake, Texas. He's a South Lake Carroll product, but he's also a transfer from Ohio State, so he came back down home, and he had a great season last year too. He is a 2024 All-American, 2024 All-SEC. He's a 2-time All-Big 12 player. He has a 65% career completion percentage, Coach. He has 68 career touchdown passes, 8 career rushing touchdowns, and a career QBR of 148. Very successful college career for Quinn Ewers, Coach. What do you like about him?
He was Bright Lights, big city. He was a big time recruit coming out of high school, and he really developed behind that, and that was what's good to see, is that he became that type of player, that he was billed as, another field, sideline, and locker room leader. This is a guy that can wear the weight on his shoulders and doesn't mind doing so, and likes to lead. Got a good quick release. He can throw the football. He can snap it. He can really snap it. He's an outstanding play action progression guy. He can really bait for bites. He can get guys to bite really, really well when he's in his rhythm. Very accurate in the intermediate passing windows in those intermediate areas. He's a rhythm QB. He can really get things going. He's going to be money He's in the short intermediate areas. If he's in his rhythm, he can go 15 for 15. He handles setbacks. He's a responder. He's been knocked down his fair share. It didn't work out in Columbus. It wasn't going to happen there. It was not going to happen there. And he picked things up and went back home, and he did nothing but compete. And he's gotten benched. And Arch Manning got a few starts down there, and he got right back up and he got back in there. And you know what? He's been knocked down his fair share, so he can respond. He can play through some adversity. He plays well on the road, and that should go without saying. I mean, he would go in and, the starter gets hurt. Quinn Ewers is going to be the starter against the Lions. Okay, well, you better come with your A game because he's not going to – that's not going to rattle him, that environment. He's got a little bit of that Matt Stafford in him. He can use those arm angles and do different things, throwing that football around a little bit. So, Quinn Ewers is a very intriguing guy, but Drew, this is a guy that has a few more, I guess, red check marks on his paper.
Yeah.
Why don't you go? Why don't you be that nice English teacher and go through those right now?
Oh man, yeah. C's get degrees, right, Coach? Hey, when he gets off schedule or out of rhythm, though, you got to look out. And to your point, he was benched briefly this past season. So for Arch Manning, I mean, at times. So can he bounce back? Absolutely. He always does, but he does get out of rhythm, and that's a problem. He showed a decline in his decision making from 2023 to 2024. That's a concern. Why that is, what happened, I don't know, but it's on tape, and there's no denying it. He's gotten banged up his fair share and then some. So he's taken some hits, very much like Matt Stafford, right? He's not only has the same arm angle, right, but he's also been banged up a little bit. So that's a little bit of a concern as well, because he's limited as a mover and a runner, and that kind of ties into that, much like Matt Stafford, right? Really struggles with consistency or time, a consistent or timely pressure. So, and we talked about that, disguised blitzes and pressures, and if he's really getting consistent or timely pressure, he does struggle under those conditions as well. He's got to develop pro consistency. I think that's what we're talking about here. He's a very effective quarterback. He's been a very successful quarterback, but also inconsistent. He's got to get consistent, and definitely a developmental prospect at this point. Where are you projecting him, kind of, Coach, in the draft this year, do you think?
I think day 2, I think is possible. Mm-hmm. If there's a void on quarterbacks, he'd go into day 3 and be an earlier day 3 pick. I think between Will Howard and Quinn Ewers, for me, I am a Will Howard person because he's bigger and he runs better. And then they possess a very similar skill set otherwise. Mm-hmm. Quinn Ewers is a guy that, he's kind of that born and bred Johnny be good quarterback. Okay. And, because guess who turned 57 years old today?
Anthony Michael Hall, right?
That's right. So need to bring that up here a little bit, Drew. But he's. I think you're going to hear his name around the league, and if you get to look at any programs and you like to skew to peruse rosters, I think you're going to see Quinn Ewers' name around the NFL for quite some time. I don't think he's going to be in a spring league or anything like that. I think he's going to be around for a bit. I'd be anxious to see if he could ever seize the moment.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. And, I agree with you. I think early day 3 is probably where he ends up. But he could jump into day 2 in the 3rd round as well. So, but he'll get an opportunity. He's going to be able to compete a little bit. And,
he could be a great backup for a long, long time, I think.
Yeah, I think that's his floor too. And so that makes him valuable. So
absolutely.
We'll see what happens with Quinn Ewers. Our number 7 prospect, Dylan Gabriel, out of the University of Oregon, quarterback, 6 foot, 200-pound senior. He's from Mililani, Hawaii. He's a Hawaii native. He transferred from Oklahoma and Central Florida. He is a left-handed quarterback. He was a 2024 All-American, 2024 Big Ten MVP, and a 2-time All Big 12 with the Sooners. He's also All AAC at UCF. So highly decorated quarterback, successful wherever he's gone. A 65.2% career completion rating, nearly 19,000 career passing yards, 155 career touchdown passes, a lot more productivity in the passing game with Gabriel than some of the others we've mentioned earlier. 33 career rushing touchdowns on top of that, a 160.9 career QBR. Coach, Dillon Gabriel's got a lot going for him, and we saw him quite a bit last year in the Big Ten against the the teams that we're from here. Let's talk about his strengths. What do you like about him?
No shade at all. No shade at all to Dillon Gabriel. None at all. But when you play like a decade of college football, you're going to have big numbers, and he certainly has. But he brings a veteran savvy as a rookie NFL quarterback. I mean, he's been there and done that at college at multiple places, and he's like a veteran presence as a rookie. And he's another guy that's a rhythm and timing passer. And if he is on, he can play. He can play. If he's on, he can play. He's very good, defensive reader. He's a good pre-snap guy, good pre-snap quarterback. He's seasoned. He's got great character and leadership qualities. He's been doing it for a long time. So I mean, he'll be on an NFL roster and be older than a good many of the players that are veterans. So I mean, he has a way to relate to players and lead. Very accurate in the intermediate windows, which is a tremendous quality to have, something that you need to bring to the NFL with you. He's got good throwing mechanics. He's got a very efficient release. He looks good throwing the football. He's got a wide array of different offensive schemes and concepts. He's experienced a lot. So he is going to be a guy that's going to be able to learn quickly. He's very mobile and adaptive in the pocket, in and out of the pocket. So he can move. He can do some different things. He can improvise a little bit. You can roll him out and see if he can get you a first down on the run. Dillon Gabriel can do those kinds of things. But I don't want to steal your thunder, Drew. But he is 6 foot, 200 pounds, and that is going to be a red check mark right off the get go. He's tiny. But there's some other things too, aren't there?
Yeah, being undersized and not having a big arm. Oh boy.
It's going to be tough to start.
Yeah, very, very tough to start. He really can be nullified by acute pressure. So very pointed like a corner blitz, stunts up front. I mean, it can if the pressure gets at him quick, there's not much he's going to be able to do back there. No. He's a limited athlete for NFL standards in essence, and he's small-handed, has struggled with ball security. His limitations are a real concern because, I mean, you can't coach height, right? I mean, you can't coach hand size. So it is what it is. The big question is he big enough and athletic enough in tandem to play quarterback at the NFL level? I don't know, Coach. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure. But I think his talent and his resume will warrant a team taking a chance on him and seeing what he's got. What do you think?
Yeah, he's day three. I think we're now talking about day three prospects, and for sure, day three prospects. Into round 5, into round 6. I think this is where we're talking about where Dillon Gabriel is going to be. I think he's going to get an opportunity for the pedigree that he really developed for himself at the college level. But do I think he's, going to be the next Drew Brees? I mean, in many ways, he brings a lot of the same skill set that Drew Brees does. He brings a lot of the same skill set that Drew Brees does, but I don't think he's Drew Brees.
No, and I agree with you, Coach. But I'm curious to see what happens. I definitely think he's going to get drafted day 3, like you said. Yeah, rounds 5 or 6. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And let's see what he's got. But yeah, there's the physical limitations are a big red flag, but it'll be interesting and we wish him success. Let's talk about our last prospect here at number 8, Coach.
We got Riley Leonard from the University of Notre Dame, 6'4", 216-pound senior from South Bend via Durham, North Carolina, and Duke University. He hails from Fairhope, Alabama, however. So he's a boy from the South, 4'5", 240, and for a quarterback that can run, that's running a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's not quite Milroe, but it's running. He did, like we mentioned, he transferred from Duke, and he really was a prolific quarterback for the Blue Devils. Made his name down there with the Duke Blue Devils. 2-time All-ACC player there. He captained both Notre Dame and the Blue Devils. Think about that. He comes up in Marcus Freeman's program that goes to the national championship game, has a lot of good football players on it, a lot of guys that were around Notre Dame for a long time. He captained that team with Jack Kaiser, that guy that played 6 years at Notre Dame that we talked about as a linebacker, as a dark horse linebacker. He was right with him in year one. He did that in year one. So awful impressive. 63.7% career completion percentage, 45 career passing touchdowns, 36 career rushing touchdowns. His margin is even closer than Jalen Milroe's into passing and rushing touchdowns. Over 2,000 career rushing yards as a quarterback. 134.8 career QBR, which is still higher. That's still higher. That's still a very good QBR. It might not be quite the same as some of the other guys. But, Drew, this is another running quarterback that can really do some different things with the ball, too.
Yeah, I like Riley Leonard. He's got great field presence, and he's a leader in the huddle. I mean, like you said, he's captain of Duke and of Notre Dame. Very impressive. He possesses that it factor as a team leader. It's a natural thing for him. And there's a lot of people like that, and there's a lot of players like that. Riley Leonard's one of them. Like I said, he captained both Duke and Notre Dame. He's got great speed. He has excellent functional athleticism. You don't run for 2,000 yards as a quarterback in college without it. He operates and manages a precision passing game very well. When he gets in a rhythm, he can be scary good. He's got a very impressive deep ball. And he's no better runner. There's really no better runner in the draft outside of Jalen Milroe than Riley Leonard. So that's a big feather in his cap. He's an excellent pre-snap operator. Understands read and recognition of the defenses he's seeing. He's excellent at recognition. He can really improvise when he needs to, and he's a real fluid and functional mover in and out of the pocket. Riley Leonard's got a lot going for him, Coach, but there's red flags. Is he too good to be true? Let's talk about it.
Well, if you're a running quarterback, what usually happens to those guys?
They get hurt.
They get banged up. And he's got a chronic foot issue that limited him at Duke at times. It happened there, and it was something that was reoccurring. Now, it did not happen last year. He was able to get through his season, his 1 year with the Fighting Irish very clean, and it was a great year. Yeah. But he's got a foot issue. And he shows, he gets happy feet. He gets happy feet in that pocket. He wants to run. That's his nature. So he's been very guilty of overextending himself and playing hero ball and running around crazy and trying to make miracle plays. And it just doesn't work. In the NFL, I mean, there's a couple of guys that have really gotten away with being able to do that, and be very successful. And they're the highest paid guys in the league. But because there's only like one or two every 20 years that can play like that. Not everybody's Fran Tarkenton. Not everybody's Randall Cunningham or Mike Vick or Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. There are very few. So John Elway, very few guys that can play like that. Steve Young. I'll stop naming them because I'm naming more and more and proving myself wrong. He forces the issue way too much, Drew, and he's not comfortable under center, and that's an issue. Mm-hmm. That's an issue. That's going to be an issue for a lot of teams. He doesn't like to be under center. It's uncomfortable to him. He hasn't done it much in his career and just doesn't show a very good feel for it. Locks in way too often. He'll lock in on receivers, and he's just way too reliant as a runner. And he needs to be able to develop and to become a passer. He's got to become a pro passer. So I mean, is he a trick pony? He's an accent player at the very, very best at this point in time. He needs a lot of acclimation to play quarterback in the NFL. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. What I also think is that the fact of what he does bring to the table, it's positive. It's going to get him drafted. I definitely think he'll be drafted on day 3. And but to your point, there's no guarantees after that. If he can't clean up a lot of these issues, it's going to be tough for Riley Leonard to stick in the NFL. But he's got the ability and the skill set to do so if he can fix some of these. So good luck to Riley Leonard. Let's talk about our dark horses. We got my guy up here, Kyle McCord, the quarterback out of Syracuse, 6'3", 220-pound senior, coach out of Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Prepped at St. Joseph's Prep in Philly. He transferred from Ohio State. He set Syracuse and ACC all-time single-season passing record. And he's all ACC at Syracuse. He's a two-time academic All-Big Ten with the Buckeyes. So he's got some IQ going for him, too. He has a 66.2% career completion percentage, 61 career touchdown passes, and a 154.4 career QBR rating. Very good numbers. He's a phenomenal manager from the short and intermediate areas, which is really important, especially in the NFL. He's well respected in the huddle as a leader with both the Orange and the Buckeyes. That can't be understated. To be a leader and be a quarterback, they got to go hand in hand. He's got it. He's got excellent deep ball touch. He does force the ball into contested areas far too often. Seen it on tape. Tries to force the issue, makes mistakes. Needs to become more adaptive and fluid as a passer, and breaks down and freelances under significant pressure. So again, you got to learn to throw the ball away sometimes. So that's stuff that Kyle McCord works on. But he's got a shot to get on a roster, Coach, and I think maybe potentially make some hay in 2 or 3 years. But I like Kyle McCord. Your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean he definitely he emerged. He really rose up. U of M ate him alive in Columbus a year ago.
Yeah,
they just ate him alive, and in Ann Arbor. I'm sorry, a year ago they just ate him alive. And he at the end there just they just took it from him. And it kind of took the wind out of his sails. All he did is go become the all-time leading passer in a single season in ACC history. I mean, that's a great response. Yes, I'm intrigued.
Who's your dark horse, Coach?
We got Tyler Shaw out of the University of Louisville. Well, this year out of the University of Louisville. 6'5", 225-pound senior. He's one of the bigger guys we've talked about. Out of Chandler, Arizona, played at Hamilton High School. That's a nationally renowned high school program out of the state of Arizona. Transferred from Texas Tech and Oregon. So he's been around the block himself. Was primarily a backup or limited to injury with the Ducks and the Red Rangers. So he played, and he got to start a little bit, but he got dinged up quite a bit. Louisville was his big year. But he does have a 63% career completion percentage, 59 career TDs, and a 147.7 career QBR. He has got a live arm. I mean, he can really – this is a guy that arm talent is up there with the guys at the top of the board. He can throw it around, and he's a good pre-snap operator. And he's got a lot of experience, even though maybe it was limited due to injury or he didn't quite get the start, especially in Oregon. He can really play himself a nice brand of football as a quarterback and a signal caller. He can extend plays with his feet. He's not, in his arm slot. He can make plays. He's a crafty football player. And he's played within a lot of different offensive schemes and concepts. So this is a guy that can bring a lot to the table, Drew. He's got a broken leg. It's just one of his many medical red flags. That's why he's down the board and the day 3 category. He's been banged up. He's also 25 years old. So his shelf life may look a little bit different than some of the other guys. Locks on the routes way too often. But we've talked about that. That's something that's going to have to get worked on. We're not talking about a day 1 NFL starter here. And he really struggles with a lot of really intense pressure. That's been some of the things that have hurt him. But Drew, he's got a lot of quarterback talent and a lot of things that you mold and translate very well into the NFL. What are your thoughts on Tyler Shaw?
His arm and his size alone gets him an opportunity to make an NFL roster and very likely will be drafted day 3. And he's going to get an opportunity to stick around a little bit because he's got a lot of potential and upside.
It was tough. I wanted to go with Curtis Rourke. I wanted to go with Donovan Smith from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of other guys, but I in the end, when I just was really doing the film, I saw a lot of things here that looked more NFL-like to me than what Curtis Rourke could bring to that table. And his physical presence is a little bit different than Donovan Smith's.
Yeah, exactly. So, at the end of the day, we can only cover 10, and we did that. So, again, it's not the deepest quarterback class we've ever seen. But there's intriguing talent there. There's no can't miss guys, but there's a couple guys, maybe 3 guys that possibly could have extended NFL careers as starters, maybe Pro Bowl caliber guys. Ward and Sanders, certainly. Your final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, as after we talk about it, you see a bunch of guys. We talked about a lot of guys are going to play in the NFL, and a lot of guys that you're going to hear about, and a lot of guys are going to get starts, and those kinds of things. Do we have any superstars? Maybe, maybe not. Do we have any long-term starters? Maybe, maybe not. But nonetheless, there's quite a bit of talent in this class.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Cannot wait for the draft. Can't wait to do our first round mock draft. That'll be coming up next. And I believe we'll be putting that out on Monday, the 21st. We'll release that. And so get ready for that. The draft is on the 24th on Thursday. So we look forward to that. That'll kick off season 8 for us. And can't think of a better way to kick it off, Coach. Very blessed to be doing this. Very blessed to be doing this with you. So thank you. Appreciate you.
My sentiments are exactly, Drew. It's the best doing it with you, my friend.
Thank you, and we appreciate everybody watching and for subscribing. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to comment, man. We've been getting a lot of comments on these, some really good stuff from the listeners and watchers, so viewers. So we appreciate it. Keep it up. Thank you. We'll be talking to you next week. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast, and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESEN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one, Sports Peninsula Podcast.